how to best utilize AI to improve your expertise, to improve your specialty on something.
I think, to me, an analogy I love to use is like the calculator. If you think about like when the calculator appeared, like I think there's like a lot of fear of like, oh, now no one will ever learn math again. But very quickly, what students are able to do is actually go beyond adding and subtracting by hand to much more complex math. Because yeah, sure, if I have to multiply, 3 5-digit numbers together, yeah, I just use a calculator to do it. Of course, I know what it's doing, how to do it, but I can move on to higher level concepts, right? And I think the same thing is true with AI.
Hi everyone, welcome to Spill the Tea podcast by Tech in Asia. Today you are with me, Novrizal Pratama, Managing Director of Tech in Asia Indonesia. We have a very special guest today from the US, so it's quite far to fly here. And he's the VP Engineering of Google. He's been in the Google for 20 years, overseeing a lot of Google Assistant, AI stuff, you name it. And when you simply Google his name, you will see how big his impact towards a lot of their products and their innovations. Please welcome here our guest, Mr. Scott Huffman. Hi, Scott.
Hi, thanks so much for
Thanks
having
so
me.
much. This is an honor for us. Welcome to Jakarta.
Thank you so much.
So please let us know a little bit why you come here and do you have like specific mission at Google?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so as you mentioned, I've done many things at Google. I think the last time I was in Jakarta was 7 years ago for a Google for Indonesia
Yeah.
event. Back when I was leading the Google Assistant, which is kind of our voice AI, Hey Google product, and making some announcements here. But these days, I help lead a group at Google called Google Labs. And Google Labs is a pretty new team at Google. We've been around about 3 years, a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And the charter or the mission of Google Labs is really to create brand new AI products, brand new products for Google's users out of Google AI, Gemini, and really try to take advantage of that to make new things for users. And so it's really exciting. So we operate, you could think of us a little bit almost like an incubator, where we have a lot of small projects going at once, and then as things, we're constantly pivoting and really trying to find things that have a fit with users. And so it's been really exciting. And the reason that the team and I have come here to Southeast Asia is, really excited about kind of the openness to AI. It just seems like a hotbed of activity with a lot of startups, a lot of content creators, really interesting e-commerce growth and just digital economy growth. And so a little bit what we're really looking for is trying to find, hey, are there new product ideas that Google should be investing in, where we should really start by building the products, say here in Indonesia. We've also visited Vietnam or in other markets here in Southeast Asia, and then begin to grow a product for the rest of the world.
That's very interesting because, of course, we all saw the growth of AI. We talk about it every day. Now we use it every day. Like 5-7 years ago, we only imagine AI on only very specific things, peripheral things.
Yeah.
Did you see the shift of the usage of AI? We've been doing it for like 10 years or more, maybe. From in terms of the technological perspective on how people are using it like 10 years ago, and now we see it being used every day. And what are the fundamental changes that you see?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. So I've actually been working on AI for probably 30 years. I always like to say I was working on AI back before it was popular, but also back before it worked. So when I started my career, you could build, and I did early in my career build AI applications, but very simple applications took years to build something simple. The very first AI kind of application I built after I finished graduate school was I worked at a firm and they had figured out that they were able to get business whenever there was an executive change at one of their companies. And so we decided we would build a product that would read newswire feeds and identify sentences like, John Smith was named COO of IBM, like
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
So by today's standards, incredibly simple, something that any LLM can do
Can
out
do.
of the box with zero work. That product took me about a year and a half to build.
Just to build.
And we ended up getting a couple patents on it, in fact. And that firm did use the product for a while, so you could make it work, but it just was a slow, long process. And of course, today you could build that product in 5 minutes,
Yeah.
and it would work better than what I built 25 years ago. So it's been fun for me to really see AI go from something that you could pound away and get something to happen to something that really out of the box has incredibly powerful capabilities. And so what's exciting for me is seeing, and I think here in Southeast Asia is going to really be a center of it, is an unleashing of creativity, right? As people
Understand.
are now able to do something new that they and build new kinds of applications that they could never build before. One analogy we like to use in labs, in Google Labs, is an analogy to kind of the mobile revolution, right?
Hmm.
I always point back to time. There was a time not very long ago when there was no such thing as a mobile developer or a
Yeah.
mobile application builder. Like, this wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
And then once the phones had the capabilities and kind of the ability for an application builder to pretty easily tap into messaging and location and the screen and all of that,
Sure.
then you obviously have had an explosion. Today there's millions of apps and millions of developers.
Yep.
And I think we're just at the beginning of seeing the same thing with AI.
So we are seeing that like the early days of dot-com boom now happening again in the age of AI. You're
Yeah,
saying that.
I think so. Yeah.
And in terms of the usage or the use cases that now people can use, of course, now we are using it for conversational function. We use it to refine our phrase. We use it for a lot of creative works as well. Do you see it only like just the beginning, like only like we're only scratching the surface right now, or we actually still have like lots of potentials of AI that can helpful for us?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, of course, not surprisingly, I think we're only
Mm.
at the very beginning.
Hmm.
I think so far, we've seen some very general tools, uh, that are chatbots, Gemini and ChatGPT and others, and super useful
Yeah.
for a lot of things. But I think what you're going to see more and more is folks using AI to build more and more, powerful and specialized applications that can really, for example, help people
Yeah.
to do specific kinds of tasks, help people to uh, create amazing content, but not just content, but maybe amazing short form video versus amazing written content versus amazing presentations for your boss at work versus
Yeah.
something else. Uh, or similarly, to help folks in different kinds of jobs. But one thing that I think AI brings that's really interesting is the ability to bring in content and understand uh, deep things about a particular profession or field of expertise, right?
Mm.
So you can actually build AI tools that can really help someone who is a lawyer,
Mm.
who's, let's say, writing a patent,
Mm.
and there's a bunch of special knowledge and language that those folks use. AI can actually now be built to do that. And so I think we're going to see a lot of kind of specialized applications over the next few years.
And I think a lot of it also comes down from, as you said, the supercomputing ability that we have right now compared to like 20 years ago,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Now, our computers basically just much more faster. Our graphic cards are much better. Infrastructure-wise, is light years compared to like 30 years ago. I'm a bit curious about the LLM part, right? Can you explain, let's say, for a 10 years old, what are LLMs, large language models? How can you explain it? Like, and why is it so fundamental for AI development?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so an LLM, let's see how can I explain? LLMs at their most fundamental level
Yeah.
are actually conceptually a really simple thing,
Hmm.
which is maybe I should start with LM. What a language model
Language.
is something that basically, given some sequence of words, tries to predict what words come next. So
Oh,
let's say I say to you, I'm going to the,
mall.
great, you're an LLM. Okay, so
Okay.
so you've now made a prediction of what I was going to say. And I say, well, what's so interesting about that? Well, if you think about it, predicting what comes next really is your way of showing understanding, right? So
Mm-hmm.
since I'm talking now,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully I'm showing that I understood your question earlier,
Mm.
right, by what I'm saying now, right? So I'm, in some sense, if you say predicting
Predicting.
what comes next. So you just said that I'm going to the mall, but let's say I said to you, I am so tired, I'm so jet lagged, I'm going to
Drink coffee.
drink coffee. Right. So
Mm.
maybe I'm going to drink coffee, or
Mm.
you might predict I'm going to bed,
Yeah.
but you probably wouldn't predict that I'm going to the mall,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? Because,
Exactly.
and why? Well, because you understood the context of what I said. What's powerful about today's LLMs, and for example, the LLMs that Google makes, Gemini, can understand something like 1 million tokens, 1 million words of context. So now you can imagine that I've read whole books. Let's say I'm going to come talk to Tech in Asia. Maybe I could have read everything that Tech in Asia has ever written, and then I'd do a better job of talking to you, right? So this is where LLMs become powerful. The other thing that's really interesting is, you know, what's so great about predicting words? Well, obviously, it amounts to generating new kinds of content,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I can, whether it's summarizing something that exists, creating something new, uh, end up being essentially predicting words. But in fact, that something that predicts words can even be a problem solver, right? If my words for you are 1 plus 3 is,
Four.
well, now suddenly you're a calculator, right?
Yeah. Okay.
You're a word predictor, but you're a calculator, right? And of
Okay.
course, you take that to a very high level of complexity, and we've seen that large language models can do things like deep analysis, and actually, you know, take large amounts of text and data and produce very, very expert analysis, for example. And so it's just turned out to be a very powerful tool. And obviously, folks who use Gemini or ChatGPT or others already realize this, that these things can do a lot of powerful things.
Thank you for the explanation. Now I can explain to my daughter at home about LLMs because I think that's the fundamental thing that you say, right? It's about creating models that can understand context, right? So you're saying that in the future, AI usage will be very personalized to each people that are using it. So let's say I'm using it, will be very different. The feedback that I get from the AI will be very different than, let's say, from than you using it. It
Yeah.
is something like that.
I think we'll see both personalization, like you're saying, as well as, let's call it, specialization to your job. So, for example,
Yeah,
you're a technology journalist,
yeah,
and I can imagine that there could be a whole set of products and AI applications that help you do technology journalism
yeah.
that might be very different than if you were a doctor
Hmm.
or something else, right? But yeah, I think with personalization, you know, you can imagine applications that you interact with over a long period of time.
Hmm.
And just like if we were to get to know each other and
Yeah,
become best friends and spend years talking to each
yeah.
other, well, you would know my preferences, I would know your
Understand.
preferences. When I said, you know, hey, let's go get some food, I'd say, well, okay, I know you really don't like Italian food, so we're
Okay.
not going to do that.
Yeah.
The same thing I think is possible with these AI
Mhm. So they
applications.
can understand us better. You work with in the field of AI already for so long, like Google Assistant you built, and maybe you can spill to us like what are your project right now and some interesting innovation that you built in Google App.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so we've been doing a few exciting things in Google Labs. Um, Let me mention a couple that I'm really excited about. One product that we've gotten a lot of folks using and are really excited is called Notebook LM.
Hmm.
And Notebook LM is really designed to allow you as a user to load in a set of sources that you trust or that you're interested in, content, and these can be documents, videos, web pages, whatever you want, and then basically interact with AI and, for example, ask questions, ask for analysis, ask for anything you want related to those sources, the way it's different from some other AIs is that the answers that you get back are what we call grounded. Basically, think of it as you get almost a set of references that
Okay.
point back into the sources. So it's not just whatever the AI's
Summary.
opinion out of thin air.
They
It's
don't
really
use.
based on your sources.
Okay.
And then the new thing that we've added more recently is the ability to take your sources and actually transform them into some other form.
Hmm.
And so the one that we started with is something we called audio overviews. Basically, think of it as a podcast. And so, for example, let's say I could load a set of sources uh, about statistics.
Yeah.
I did this recently, so my son's in college and he's learning
Yeah.
business statistics. So
Yeah.
I loaded up a set of YouTube videos of a
Yeah.
professor teaching statistics, and then with the press of a button, I was able to generate basically a podcast of two different hosts talking
Talking to.
through a particular topic. So I could say, hey, talk about histograms. And I got, a 5-minute podcast of folks explaining to each other how histograms work. And what we're seeing that's really exciting is we're seeing a lot of students, for example, college students who are
Mm.
using this to study.
Mm.
So they'll do things like actually do what I said, like they'll record their professor or put in their course documents, generate this audio overview, and then we've heard of folks who will like that on their phone and like while they go for their jog, they're listening to it and learning. The system can also generate things like study guides, so you
Yeah.
can generate a quiz and quiz yourself. Um, and in fact, one that we actually launched this week is something that we call a mind map. So where you can, with a click of a button, you get essentially a visual layout of the concepts in your content, and then you can drill into any concept.
Mm.
And so one reason I think we're really excited about it is within kind of education, we've seen at least in the US a little bit of, and understandably, kind of a fear from
Of
educators
course.
of like, hey, my students are just going to use this to cheat,
Mm.
right? They're going to, when they have to write their essay on,
Yeah.
on something, they're on space travel, they're just going to go into ChatGPT and type essay on space travel, and then they're going to submit it. I think what Notebook LM is showing is that, in fact, you can use AI to become a really effective study partner for students, and we're just seeing a huge amount of uptake in universities where folks are doing that.
And in terms of like how it can be your study partner, do you see that Notebook LM use cases will also like evolve to be like giving recommendations on what books that can you read, or what are the subjects that can you enrich yourself to, or mostly like the usage will be prompt based in a sense that, okay, I want to know more about math and this kind of formulation, then yep. Or maybe they can also like in the future, I don't know, maybe can give you more recommendations.
Oh, it's great. See,
Yeah.
you need to come and be a product manager for us in Google Labs,
Accept me,
because
Google App.
because this type of thing is exactly what we're one of the things that we're looking at next. One feedback that we've gotten from users is, hey, this is great that I can put my sources in, and
uh,
now I can have this conversation, but gee, Google, you're Google. You
yeah.
understand all the information in
Yeah.
the world. So why can't I just put some topics in and then actually have you go and find some high quality sources for me? And so that's one of the kinds of things that we're working on.
One of the most interesting shift of Google I saw right now, because I use it, of course, every day. Like pretty much before it was search based. Now the search have Gemini capability to recommend you and give you a slight summary of the context or the content that you are trying
Yeah.
to understand. Do you see that more and more usage on every like search capabilities of Google, um, having AI features on it?
I think so. I think, and you see us pretty strongly leaning into that, mainly because users are really responding incredibly well to it.
Yeah.
I think what you kind of saw in the early, as we began rolling it out, was what Google always does is tries to really optimize for how users respond.
Mhm.
And so what we saw was there are certain kinds of searches, like if I'm going to just search for directly for a business, if I'm going to search for tech in Asia, and I just want to go to techinasia.com and that's it,
Yeah.
then that summary just gets in the way.
Yeah.
And so so we're kind of tuned where it shows up. But if I'm asking a more analytical question, hey, overview of social commerce trends in Southeast Asia.
Yep.
Then, that summary, again, linked with sources, very similar to what we do in Notebook LM, that let people drill into the web and into the best sources. We've seen our users really responding to it really, really well.
Yeah.
It's been fun for me, even at my test audience is always my family, because they don't know that these things are coming. And I've noticed that recently, like my wife has actually commented to me a few times that, like, oh, this now I get this summary. This is way more useful than what I used to get. And like, oh, now instead of just a bunch of links, the links are there, but they're called out in the context of where I could use.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's, we've been pretty happy with the results in terms of people feeling like it still feels like Google search. It still
Yeah.
feels authoritative. It still leads you to the best information on the
Yeah.
web and the best publishers, but it kind of makes it more useful for people. So
It filters out the links that are maybe not related and give you like the best results. And I think,
that's the goal, of course.
yeah,
Yeah.
Google is about data, and you utilize the data really well to serve your customer. I think that's brilliant. And I also learned that you are creating some other stuff like Whisk. Maybe you can talk about it, or maybe other project like Mariner. Which one?
Yeah. So I mentioned we're kind of like an incubator. So we have a lot of things going on at one time. Uh, Another area where we think AI is going to really transform, of course, we're seeing it, is really in creativity, and where
That's
people obviously are using AI both to create content, to create videos, to create pictures, all sorts of things. And so a project we have that I'm really excited about, a product we have uh, that's called Whisk, is really trying to get at, hey, it's great that I can ask AI to create pictures, but how do I do that? Like, it's weird to describe. You're not used to describing to something
yeah,
like a
yeah, yeah,
picture
yeah.
that you want. It's pretty hard to put that into words. And so with Whisk's idea is saying, well, what if I started from other images? And
Mm,
so what Whisk lets you do is a really simple model. Says, okay, you can put in one or more pictures that are like the subject of your final image, something that sets the scene of your image, and then something that sets the style of your image. And then it's called Whisk. Whisk, is like mixing
oh,
together. And
that's
so what
why
the AI does is
that's why
kind of
it's called Whisk.
mixes those things up. For example, I was giving a demo this morning that was really fun, where I took a picture of our VP who leads our Southeast Asia area, and of course everyone knew her, so I made her the subject, her picture the subject, and then the style was a little plushy doll, like a little knit doll, and then out came a really nice little plushy doll
Mm,
of our VP.
mhm.
Which I told the team I wished that I could like make the real plushy doll and send it to them because it was really cute and nice. And then it was like, well, what scene should the plushie doll be in? And so I added a picture of the Jakarta skyline, and then plushie doll suddenly was walking on the streets in Jakarta. So of course I maybe could have described that, but it just felt really simple to be able to combine those images. One thing we talk about a lot in labs, just to pop up a level, is look, all these AI interactions started with chatbots, and chatbots are great. Like
Still good.
chatbots a good paradigm. It's really powerful. But I think what you're going to see over time is more and more of these kinds of interactions that are
Different direction,
different
different
kinds of
inputs.
user experiences that make it AI really easy to use.
And I can see that really natural, especially for creative people. They used to like search Google Images and put some references and then to create something, right? So I can see that easily can be used by like say architects, interior designers, those
Yeah, exactly.
animators. Interesting. Well, can't wait to. We will have the demo after this. So I want our audience to see how
Yeah,
it works.
yeah,
Yeah. And now I want to talk more about Southeast Asia, the reason why you came here, Vietnam, and now Indonesia. Do you see like specific potential that is very unique compared to any other regions that can propel the usage or maybe the developments of AI in the future, especially in this region?
yeah, yeah. No, definitely. There's a very deliberate choice to come here,
Yeah.
to kind of look for new product ideas and think about what we could incubate. And the reason and the things that we're really seeing as we're here is obviously the incredible growth of the digital economy.
Mm,
Um, a young population, and but maybe beyond even those things is just uh, we've really felt an amazing openness from folks in terms of being willing to try kind of new things,
mm,
right? You think of AI, look, AI, it's exciting that, as I kind of mentioned, it's finally starting to work and do useful things, and that's great. But we also all know that it's not perfect.
of
It's
course.
not done. It doesn't always work. And so there has to be a little bit of a willingness to say, like, okay, I'm willing to try something new. I'm willing to see how it can help me. And we're really seeing that. So, while we've been here, we've had a great time meeting with startups,
Yep.
meeting with meeting with small businesses who are using AI in all sorts of interesting ways, meeting with content creators. Tomorrow we're meeting with a bunch of educators,
Mm,
and everyone that we've talked to in all those groups have just really shown a lot of really confirmed that there's
yeah.
just a lot of openness, and I would even say a lot of the word that we would use in the US is like scrappy, kind
Hmm.
of a lot of scrappiness of like, okay,
Mm,
whatever's out there, whatever can help me to do my business, to create my content, to teach my students, I'm going to use it and try it.
yeah.
And so it's been really fun talking to folks and hearing how they're mixing and matching different tools, some from Google, some from others, to try to do things. And I think that kind of exploratory spirit is
Mm.
really a great place to try new ideas.
Do you see that it feels like the early days of tech boom? Like it's something new. The internet was like in the 90s was really new that everyone's trying to get scrappy and to build something on top of it.
Yeah, and I
Is it
think it's
similar?
and I think it's really, gives those creators and businesses a real competitive advantage
Hmm.
too. I mean, now this will date me to being an ancient person, but I just remember back way back when kind of the web was a new thing.
Yeah.
And along that scrappy thing, I had like a bunch of friends who were like building web pages. That was like a hard thing then and a new thing. And like exploring what you could make with HTML and with the web and all that. And, those folks, just by doing that and being early starters with the new technology,
Yeah.
ended up, a lot of them ended up with careers in that and ended up, really going deep and creating some of the early things in that space. And I think you're going to see the same thing from the entrepreneurs
Mm,
and businesses
mm,
and creators here in Southeast Asia who like jump on that
mm.
early and try. And so I think it, it is a good thing for this region.
In terms of gaps and challenges, of course, infrastructure-wise, compared to the US, the development of AI is already like very advanced. The infrastructures are there, the data sets are there, the big CPUs are there, so to speak. And Southeast Asia countries like Indonesia, of course, we are not there in terms of infrastructure. How can we shorten the gap of knowledge and development? Do you think that we can still utilize the development in the US? Let's say, let's not focus on the fundamental part, the LLM part. Just focus on the application layer part. Let's just focus on the use cases or our society uniqueness. So we create something unique for ourselves. How do you see that in terms of gaps?
Yeah, I mean, I really see it kind of the way you described. I feel like, you know, you, you don't really need everyone to create the giant foundational models.
Hmm.
Obviously, Google and others are doing that. One thing that's really nice is that those models, and they're getting better and better over time very quickly, obviously, but they're very good across languages, across modalities, be it image, video, audio,
Hmm.
across modalities,
Hmm.
obviously across a massive range of knowledge areas and capabilities. And so I think it really provides a powerful building block for everyone to build on top of. And then, as you said, I think we're going to see more and more of the value really move to, we can call it the application layer, the use cases. The other thing I think people often kind of underestimate is even for a trained LLM, like Gemini, let's say, how you prompt it and how you can add extra training on top very easily to really specialize it for your use case and can generate a lot of value and a if you like a gap in value that way. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity for entrepreneurs all over the world to create value on top. Uh, even if they're not the one creating the foundation model. And we use the analogy of the phone earlier, and I think that's the same. Like it's
Yeah.
not like every uh, country or every region in the world needs to have an Android OS of their, or an
On their
iOS of
own.
their own,
Mm.
right? But yet there's still huge value in terms of all the applications and businesses that are built on top. And I think we're going to see that AI is similar to that.
So you see that the actual usage of the our current application, so to speak, is pretty much very, we are not using it to the most optimal usage yet. So we are still using it only in a very smaller kind of function. Do you think like we need to have more proven use cases first using our current technology? What do you think? Do we need every businessman to be taught to use AI, how to use AI?
I think you'll end up with, and you see this in any of these things, right? In any technology shift where you'll have some set of people who will jump on and be early adopters and really push the set of use cases.
Yeah.
And then you have other folks who really are waiting until the technology is packaged for them,
Mm,
right? And so I think we'll see that full range. I think one of the things we've been very focused on in Google Labs, and both Notebook LM and Whisk that we talked about are good examples, is really saying how do you demystify and make AI very usable for kind of everyone.
yeah.
So I always am happy when I show audiences Notebook LM because I think when you say to people, "Oh, here's Notebook LM," it's a AI research partner, and people glaze over like AI. Okay, I don't know what that
They're
is.
already
That
scared.
sounds complicated. I don't know how to use that.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you bring up Notebook, and the first thing you do is pick some files. You
Mm,
pick your files and your source. People are like, "Oh, it's like a file picker." Well, I know how to do that. I could do a file picker.
mm,
And then they see that, oh, like now I pick my files. Now I click a button and I get a podcast. Well, I can click a button. That's easy for me, right? So I think we're going to see a lot of applications like that that try to package the power of AI, but in a way that makes it simple
mm,
and that users don't have to understand
mhm.
the details of how it works. And if you think really any great application, AI or not, that's what it does, right?
Yeah,
It
exactly.
makes it easy for me
Easy
to
to
use it
use.
without having to understand all the details underneath.
People don't need to understand the technical things behind it. They just need
They
to
just
know
they just want the
the use
value
case
from it,
and the
right?
value of it. Correct. Again, about Southeast Asia, will you predict that, um, let's say Indonesia right now, we are pretty much a consumer country and also a very high on content. We consume content almost every day in every application, social medias and all that. Do you see that with the development of AI nowadays, do you see that will help us to become better economically in terms of people using it for more innovations, people using it for creating better content maybe? Or do you see that we we're going to stay only as a consumer country in the future?
I mean, it seems to me like there's a huge amount of creation and innovation involved in
Yeah,
Indonesia's digital economy
yeah,
already.
yeah.
And so I think that, like we talked about, I think there's just a lot of hunger to keep going. One way we like to talk about it is that, what AI can enable is folks who couldn't do to do, and folks who can do to become great at doing. So if you think about it like in a content
Yeah.
creation, uh, you know, actually, I'd say pre AI and pre a lot of the power tools that have started to exist. For example, if I say I want to become a content creator, I want to start making YouTube shorts every day and posting them, actually a pretty steep learning curve for me to do that. There's a lot of stuff to learn and a lot of production value. You guys have your whole production crew here. Like it's not easy, right?
Yeah.
To do. But you can imagine that with AI, those creation tools will reach a level where, hey, I as an amateur creator can actually create decent quality things,
Mm,
without too much work. And then the other aspect is folks who today maybe have to do a lot of work to create something that's pretty good. What we'll see is those folks will learn to use AI kind of power tools to actually become like incredibly proficient, right? So I think it really just raises the quality level and the even
Mm-hmm.
just the number of folks who can participate.
Mm-hmm.
One other area that we work in that we haven't talked about a lot in labs is around AI coding.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a very hot topic these days. And because it's so powerful that
Mm-hmm.
AI is now allowing folks to code faster
True.
and to code better. I think the other thing that we're starting to see with AI coding is that folks who really couldn't code or could only write code at a basic level now can create applications
Yeah.
that work well and share
Yeah.
them with their friends and add new features and continue. I think we're going to see that continue. So where instead of a very small number of people who are able to, for example, create an app,
Yeah.
that
Now.
number will grow. And the folks who are experts at creating apps already, their apps are going to get better
Yeah.
because they're going to get way more efficient and be able to kind of create even more.
I think that kind of answers my next question, but I'm sure you've been asked about this question a lot about AI and jobs, right? So everyone is being in the debate of will AI replace jobs? No, it will create more jobs, but what kind of jobs that they will create? So do you see that, let's say, for our younger people, um, how can they maximize the potential? Because AI is inevitable, right? Everyone will use that, and I think that's the best way to do your work or going to school right now. So how to how to best utilize AI to improve your expertise, to improve your specialty on something. How do you see that? In maybe in general sense.
Yeah, I mean, I totally understand the concerns and questions about
Yeah.
jobs. It makes sense. I think what we've all seen in the past is every technology shift
Mm-hmm.
back to like the Industrial Revolution and all those things.
Yeah.
And I'm no historian, but all those things shift jobs from one place to another.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of these things tend to make some jobs get automated
Mm-hmm.
away, and whole reams of new jobs appear. But in general, I think economies have grown and improved over time with those technology shifts. So I mean, obviously, I'm very bullish that the same thing will happen here. I think to me, an analogy I love to use is like the calculator. If you think about like when the calculator appeared,
Invented.
like I think
Mm-hmm.
there's like a lot of fear of like, oh, now no one will ever learn math again.
Yeah.
Now, like no one, like in 5 years, no one's going to know how to add or subtract, right? It's like they'll just
Yeah.
have the calculator, like they just won't know. Well, of course, what's really happened is, of course, we still learn mathematics in school, and we still learn how
Add
to
and
add and
subtract.
subtract and all that. But very quickly, what students are able to do is actually go beyond adding and subtracting by hand
Mm-hmm.
to much more complex math. Because, yeah, sure, if I have to multiply, three 5-digit numbers together, yeah, I just use a calculator to do it. Of course, I know what it's doing, how to do it, but I can move on to higher level concepts, right? And I think the same thing is true with AI in education today, right? Where I would encourage students like make sure you really understand the concepts, and because I think what we're going to see is just like in math, you're going to see teachers moving through the base concepts more quickly, because folks can then use AI to move through those things and move on to kind of the higher levels of thinking and creativity.
Hmm. So you believe that with the more usages of AI, we will have more advanced way of thinking. We can solve more complex problems and essentially create better innovations in the future.
I think so. And even if you think about very simple things like if I'm a small business and I am thinking about my marketing
Hmm.
campaign, it's important for me to have good marketing. Pre-AI, though, I might have to say, well, I either need to learn how to write good marketing
Yeah.
copy, how to create images, how to film marketing videos a very specific way. I either need to learn all that myself,
Yeah.
or I need to spend a bunch of money to hire folks to do those exact things. And I need to take the time to figure all that out. Well, maybe now I can do what I actually want to do with the AI tools, which is what I really want to do as a business owner is think about what marketing messages do I want to reach my consumers?
Yeah.
What's going to really be valuable for my customers?
Yeah.
That's what I want to think about
Mm.
and what will really be effective. Now I can spend more of my time doing that because some of those more mundane pieces of creating the copy
Mm.
and the imagery and maybe posting and running the marketing campaign and optimizing it. Technology can do that part for me so that I can really focus where I want to.
Very positive and very encouraging. So tell me, what are the plans of Google Apps in the, let's say, the that you can spill, of course, the next 3, 5 years? What are the things that you are in the making right now, and how, again, as you imagine, how can it impact human lives?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's hard to predict more than this field's moving so fast. It's hard to predict too far
Even
out.
for you, it's moving so fast.
It's amazing. We're still at a. It's exciting that we're still at a very high rate of improvement, for example, of models
Mm,
and just of basic capabilities that will underlie our products.
mm,
And so that's really exciting, even hard for us to keep up with, um, but I think it's great. So I think you're going to continue to see, with everyone in the world now investing,
yep.
you're going to continue to see an amazing rate of new capabilities and AI being able to do more things. I think the way we like to think about it is kind of as a set of, we call it like our set of futures. So it's like, how will AI transform the future of how we work? We talked a little bit about that for small businesses, for example. How will it transform the future of creativity? So we're working on a lot of products that are around creative things, whether it's creating audio, creating images like this, creating video. A lot of new products are going to come there. We talk about the future of knowledge. So Notebook LM is a good example. Like, okay, how do I have all these documents, all these sources, but how do I use them, right? Maybe pre-AI, while I read them by hand, I can
Yep.
extract things. Now with products like Notebook, oh, I can get help with
Different
doing
use
that
case.
and get hopefully a lot more usage out of the content that I have. Another one that we're very focused on, we talked a little bit about, is the future of software, where, like I said, I think our vision is really that software creation is getting democratized, right? And that more and more people will be able to create software and more powerful applications just by describing them. And if you think about, I'm sure your group of friends is like mine. Lots of people have ideas for great products and very
True.
good ideas for things, but they're not able on their own to create those products. We're going to see that, uh, that start to change. Yeah, so there's we think in all those kind of areas, uh, we're going to see a real transformation, and at Google Labs, our goal, and we kind of try to organize our products in those buckets.
Well, anyway, can't wait for the future innovations. Of course, I still have a lot of things that I can question, but of course the time is very limited. But I really wish um, you guys can really give a lot of great innovation that we can all use and improving our daily lives. So thank you so much, Scott, for your time,
Yeah, thank
and
you.
I wish you good luck. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.